Aysu is a passionate advocate of continuing professional development. Believe me, I know, I work with her. In her role with Oxford University Press, she not only delivers trainings for teachers from across Turkiye and Central Asia, but she's also a workplace coach, which enables her to help her colleagues with their career development, which she does. And she loves sharing tips and tricks on ELT whenever she has the opportunity. The opportunity, my love, is yours.
Thank you, Charlotte. I just want to say hi again. My name is Aysu Şimşek, as Charlotte briefly introduced me very kindly. Thank you very much for those lovely words coming from your mouth. It was a pleasure for me to join the panel discussion before. So here I am. We are going to talk about challenging the native speaker fallacy, but we are going to first begin with a little bit of activity, which requires you to use the chat box, but I can see all of you are amazing at using the chat box. So here is a little question for you. Thank you. Welcome back. I'm so happy to be back. Thank you, Fatu. So think about your favorite teacher. It might be your English teacher or your foreign language teacher or any other subject teacher when you were a student, whether it be primary, secondary, or university level. What adjectives come to your minds when you think of your favorite teachers? Especially English, maybe, since we are all English teachers here. Or maybe mostly great, motivating, passionate, kind, funny. I like funny. I wanted my students call me funny. I hope they do. Energetic, kind, amazing. Oh, the chat box is really caring, dedicated, creative, smart. Wow, cool. Dynamic, perfect. Wonderful. I am so happy that none of you mentioned that your favorite teacher was a native speaker, because it has nothing to do with, we discussed this in our panel discussion before, it has nothing to do with being a teacher or being an effective teacher. So I'm so happy that none of you has mentioned it in the chat box, because obviously we all agree that being an effective teacher does not have anything to do with your first language. That's great. That is the actually native speaker fallacy, the belief, or maybe the disbelief, that when you speak English and when you grew up in an English-speaking country, and if your first language is English, that automatically makes you an effective English teacher. That is the fallacy, which is wrong. I think we've all proven it so far. So, what makes an effective English teacher effective? We've also discussed this in our panel discussion. We said that knowledge of subject, because we're English teachers, we need to know what English is all about and how to teach it effectively for our students. An effective English teacher needs to be good at classroom management. When you think of your favorite teachers, they might be very good at classroom management. They might know the needs of their learners. They can adapt themselves. They can adapt the lesson plans, playing by the ear, because every day the needs of the learners are changing. You know it better than I do, because you're teaching in the classroom effectively, I'm sure. And showing empathy, most of you said being kind, being open, and etc. When you thought of your favorite teachers, definitely showing empathy, being a model of how to encourage empathy in our learners is also a very important trait when you think of an effective English teacher. And of course, if you can't be if you're not a student yourself, if you're not a learner, you can't be a teacher, because it's an ongoing process. To teach, you need to learn new things every day, which is apparently you're all good at doing this, because you're here on a Thursday joining us and trying to learn and share your knowledge or expertise with the rest of us. And also, an effective teacher reflects on their teaching practice to get better, to improve themselves, to become better English teachers in this case. So all of these aspects, all of these qualities, they don't have anything to do with your first language, right? With that said, let's see what we can do to challenge the native speaker fallacy, because we've discussed this in our panel discussion, because it is there. It's the reality. We all face it. We have faced it. We are facing it. And hopefully we won't face it that much because we are talking about it and we are all aware of it. So what can we do in our classrooms, not going far away from our classrooms? So we've been talking about accents and embracing accents because we all have accents, which is our reality. And in our classrooms as well, we need to think about the ways how we can promote different accents, how we can embrace our accents, because research says that whether the students are taught by a native speaker teacher or a non-native speaker teacher, it doesn't matter in terms of their proficiency level. It increases with good teachers, with effective teachers. So whether you have an accent or not as a teacher, it really doesn't matter as long as you're good at what you do. So we need to pay more attention to intelligibility over pronunciation. I don't think I can highlight this enough. We've been talking about it for over an hour right now, but I could see in the chat box that most of you also agree with us, because if you can't deliver the message clearly to others, it doesn't matter which accent you have, to be honest. And also, this is supported by CEFR as well. I saw one of you mentioned this in the chat box before. So when you look at C1 descriptor, it actually says that if you're a C1 level speaker, you can articulate virtually all the sounds of the target language, which is English in our case. Some features of accents retained from other languages, because from your native language, if you have two native languages, you might have different accents in your speech. They may be noticeable, but they do not affect intelligibility. So as long as you are intelligible, we are all in good hands. It's true. Yeah. Thank you for agreeing with me in the chat box. So what we can do in our classes, in our lessons, we've already discussed this, bringing real examples, achievable models into the classroom, like interviews with football players. Charlotte mentioned that when she was teaching, she saw this DVD from many years ago, maybe a couple of years ago, I might say maybe, of football players interviewing about their journeys of learning English. It doesn't have to be that. I mean, you can find any kinds of videos online where football players share their opinions after a football match, for instance, using English while they don't speak English in their first language, or K-pop singers, or any other artists from different areas. Or you can ask your students to find examples and bring into the classroom. I'm sure they will be happy to do that, because with the help of social media, now everything is more accessible. There is wider reach when you think about it. So it's easier for us, for our students as well, to go online and find some examples of accomplished people. Doesn't matter which area they are from. They might be artists, singers, etc. And also maybe asking ex-students to pay a visit to your classrooms when they, the accomplished people, if they are working in a, let's say, a global company or whatever they are doing, they must have something to share with the rest of the classroom. They can pay a visit to your classrooms and share their experiences of learning English, of communicating people from different areas of life, etc. This can be done, why not, in the classroom, and the students in the classroom can see a real example other than yourselves, because we also discussed that as teachers, we are also models for our students. Okay. This is something that we've also paid some attention in our panel discussion. It doesn't mean that since we are focusing on intelligibility, it doesn't mean that we need to skip pronunciation lessons, etc. Of course not. We need to pay attention to pronunciation and even make it a part of our everyday lesson, maybe spending some time on it rather than skipping those parts. Whatever we are teaching, vocabulary, grammar, reading, etc., we can definitely spend some time on how to teach different elements of pronunciation, but that matter. We don't have to focus on every aspect of pronunciation and give the same amount of attention, but thinking about weak forms, connected speech, different stresses, word stress, sentence stress, these elements actually make English, when you speak it, a little bit more intelligible, and when you're speaking, you transfer the message clearly. And also we discussed, different phonemes that different languages might have. Again, focusing on considering the level, considering the native language of your students, you can decide which aspects of phonemes and pronunciation you can pay more attention to. And you can use AI for this. I mean, if you're not familiar with the language of the students that you're teaching, AI is there. You can ask, what might be difficult for the students to produce in that. Okay, I'm moving on. Thank you for your messages in the chat box. I am checking them as much as possible. The next idea is to embrace mistakes, because mistakes happen. I don't think there is a day that goes without making any mistakes, especially for me, even in my own language, which is Turkish. I do make mistakes when I'm speaking. And I think probably I have made lots of mistakes since I started talking today. That is okay, because I mean, it's a part of learning. We can definitely learn from our mistakes. Yes, exactly. I mean, you're also sharing the same idea in the chat box as well. So how we can embrace the mistakes of our students and of ourselves too. Maybe talking about it at the end of the week, asking the students, what was your favorite mistake this week? And then they can share the mistakes that they have made while learning, while speaking English. I think the key is to share yours as well as the teacher, as the model. My mistake, for instance, my favorite mistake that I have made while I was preparing this session was not to be able to say intelligibility quite easily in the first place. It was a little bit difficult for me to say that word because it has so many syllables for me, but I think I'm doing a good job. I think you can understand me when I say intelligibility. I got better in time and after some practice. So I learned how to say intelligibility after many trials. And if you're concerned about your students being shy, or maybe they fear being, getting laughed at because of the mistakes they might share, they can do it anonymously. They can put it on a sticky note, and you can also check the spelling as well. Here's another idea. They can hang them around, and you can, walk around and see if there are any common mistakes, for instance, common favorite mistakes. You can share it with the classroom, and you can, think about how to overcome those mistakes if they continue as well. Yes, as Marciana says, mistakes make you stronger. Definitely, they make us stronger, as long as we are aware of them, of course. That's why it's a good reflection activity when you think about that. Okay, moving on. As we also discussed, accents are part of our cultures. We are here around 3,000 teachers here. And we are all coming from different cultures, even though some of you are coming from the same country. I know that I have seen some Turkish names. I know that my some Turkish colleagues are joining us as well. But that doesn't mean that we are we share exactly the same culture. So cultures are important, and every country has different cultures within the borders of them. So here is an idea that I call Raise Your Voice Day. It doesn't mean like shouting at each other with different accents. It's rather to think about a unique aspect of your culture, and then sharing it with the rest of the classroom. Maybe the students can come together, work together in pairs or in groups. Or if you know that there are some students who are coming from the same region of the country where you're teaching, then they can work together and think about how to find a unique aspect of their cultures, and think about the different accents in that region, and then how those accents are different from the ones that that are spoken in any other regions as well. So I said it, I'm from Turkey, and in Turkey we have so many different accents in different cities, in different regions. If you go towards the north side of Turkey, you will find, even though we speak the same language, you will find different accents. I might have a different accent to different people as well. So just to celebrate that in our native language as well, we have different accents. That is okay. We do not have any problems understanding each other, because we're exposed to it at some point. That's why it's important to bring different accents into the classroom and think about the fact that every language has different accents. There is no one English that is spoken throughout the world, even amongst the native speakers. There are so many different accents, as we said, like there are Englishes right now. Okay. We're coming towards the end of this discussion. And here is another idea. It follows a model called if-then. This is about challenging the thinking. Gemma said in the panel as well. You need to call out. You need to stand up to the idea that you're less of a teacher or you're less of a English speaker just because of your accent. No, we need to find ways to stand up against this notion, this idea of some people. It's not everyone, but it is there. So there is this model that is called if-then. So if someone questions you as a teacher because of your accent, then you might ask open-ended questions to that person. Like, for example, in what ways do you think my accent affects my teaching? These questions are to invite the questioner, that person, to think and to reflect on their own biases as well, because this is coming from their own biases. They might not be aware of that they have bias against you and your accent. I mean, not you as a person, but your accent in particular. So asking a question, an open-ended question like, in what ways do you think my accent affects my teaching? Or just like I asked in the very beginning, what do you think are the most important qualities of a good teacher? I don't think the first answer will be being a native speaker by anyone, because everyone knows that being a teacher requires lots of work. It is different. You need to have different qualities. And when you start questioning people, and it also brings up other questions while you're talking. It's not like trying to put that other person into a bad position, but it is just to question the thinking of other people. Where is this coming from? Why are we talking about this right now? Because my worth as a teacher is defined by my qualities, not my accent. So asking open-ended questions is a very good idea, and you should definitely try if you haven't done so far, just to challenge the thinking of those people. And also, even if you are not the target of those questions, it doesn't mean that you have to keep quiet. It gives you an opportunity to stand up against that understanding, that thinking. So be an active bystander. Don't just watch what's going on around you, but just support each other, support your colleagues, even if you're not questioning, even if you're not questioned alone. It doesn't mean that you have to just stand there and listen to other people making comments on your colleagues' accents or anything. We need to stand by each other, and we need to be there to support each other. That's why maybe being an active bystander is important to tackle around this notion, and keep the conversation going. I mean, this is almost the end of my presentation, but it doesn't have to be the end of this conversation. I'm really happy to be here, to be able to talk about this important topic, because it affects everyone. It doesn't only affect non-native teachers. It affects native teachers as well. It affects our students, because they might miss the opportunity to be taught by an effective English teacher like yourselves, for instance. That's why we need to keep the conversation going. This is not the end. When you leave this conference today, when you go into your classrooms, when you go into the teacher's lounge, for instance, ask what your colleagues are thinking about. Ask the administration what they are thinking about, and share your opinion as well. And you can question, or you can be an active bystander if anything else pops up. So that is highly important to carry on the conversation in our communities. I mean, we can't really do much about it, and that doesn't need to stop us from doing something about it. I hope it resonates with you. And yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for your kind words in the chat box. And I'm glad that you have found the ideas useful, and that you might want to start maybe applying them. Yeah, I'm just reading through the chat box if there is any comment or question that need my attention. Okay, so final words, famous last words. Charlotte, please join me when I do that. I will be really happy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to turn my camera on. It happened when I turned on my mic.
It's totally fine. And let's remind each other from time to time that accents are important, that they are us. They show our culture. They show, as Montse said before, that we are learning another language, which is amazing. It's not easy. It's not something that everyone can do. We are not just learning, we are also teaching it to others. So we are helping the world become a better place. So our accents are the soul of a language, and they carry the history and culture of our people. So we need to embrace it, and we need to make sure that everyone understands that we are not only defined by our accents, but by our qualifications and qualities as an effective teacher. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I'm looking forward to the next 2 days of Talk. And I'd like to thank everyone for this opportunity for me to speak out about this important issue.